Chinese netizens are really coming for us this time.
Maybe we should explain ourselves a bit.
Ethan already made a list of all the comments for us.
I'm starting to hate Ethan.
He's just helping us with material. Anyway, if we miss anything or you've got more questions, feel free to drop a comment.
We actually read them all.
Yeah, sometimes with deep breathing. Hey, so, you notice how our comment section has been blowing up lately?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There was one comment, really passionate, from a listener in China saying something like, "You guys always seem to have issues with China, always criticizing us. What are we supposed to do?"
Yeah, the comments can get pretty lively. But, you know, hearing that, it sounds like there's a real feeling of being unfairly singled out. Are we really that critical?
Honestly, I don't think so. And, you know, longtime listeners know we try really hard not to criticize anyone intentionally. We just talk about the facts, what's in the news.
Right.
And let's be real. Topics related to China, whether it's government policy or even just, cultural things, they do dominate a lot of world news. So people ask and we discuss.
Exactly. We're just laying out what's happening. But hey, since that listener brought it up so passionately, maybe we should do something a bit different today.
Yeah, like today, let's try and be like a beacon of truth, you know, to tackle some of these big questions head on.
A beacon of truth.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Answer those questions about international perception, cross-strait relations, cultural differences, all those confusing things. We'll use facts, try to be empathetic, and maybe add a little humor, too. Shine a light on it.
Okay, the Beacon of Truth segment is officially launched. So what are the big questions we're lighting up today?
Well, things like, why does it feel like the whole world discriminates against China? And why don't Taiwanese people identify as Chinese? Also, is the West really just trying to keep China down?
Okay, those are huge.
And other stuff, too, like why some people feel Chinese people aren't sort of sticking together when they're abroad. We'll try and unpack all of that.
Sounds fascinating. All right, let's cut the chatter and get straight to it. Let's light up that first beacon.
Let's do it.
Okay, beacon number 1. Why does the world seem to discriminate against us? This is a big one we hear.
It is. And the analysis we've seen really stresses making a distinction right away. It's not always about discriminating against Chinese people as a group. Often it's more about a reaction to specific behaviors.
Okay, explain that difference.
Well, think about common tourist complaints you hear everywhere, right? Loud talking in quiet places, maybe cutting in line, taking tons of photos without being aware of others.
Right. Things that annoy people regardless of where the tourist is from. I mean, I've seen Europeans roll their eyes at loud American tourists shouting, USA. It's about the action, not the passport necessarily.
Exactly. Bad behavior gets a negative reaction universally.
But here's where it gets more complex. There was this Pew Research Center study in 2023.
Yeah, I saw that data. Pretty striking.
Right. A median of 2/3 of people across 24 countries surveyed had unfavorable views of China.
That's a significant global perception issue.
2/3 is huge.
And it gets even higher, like over 80% in high-income countries. Think Japan, Australia, South Korea, US, parts of Europe.
So what does that tell us? It's not just about loud tourists then?
Probably not entirely. That high percentage in those specific countries suggests it's tangled up with bigger things, geopolitical tensions, trade disputes, security concerns, how China interacts on the world stage, especially with those nations.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the diplomatic angle. Why does criticism of the government often feel like a personal attack to individuals?
Well, a point often made is that the Chinese government itself frequently frames things that way. Criticism of its policies, say on human rights or the South China Sea, is often presented domestically and internationally as an attack on the Chinese people or the entire nation and its culture.
So they deliberately tie policy criticism to national identity.
It seems that way sometimes. So if the official line is, any critique is an attack on all of us, then yeah, an individual citizen might feel that weight, that defensiveness, even when the criticism wasn't aimed at them personally at all.
It kind of creates this cycle, doesn't it? Like the student who constantly says they're number one, and anytime someone points out a flaw, they just yell, "You're jealous."
Yeah.
Eventually, people might just tune out.
Yeah, they stop engaging seriously. It's not necessarily hate, it's just exhausting, maybe. Which leads us right into the next beacon, sort of the geopolitical heart of it.
Beacon number 2. Why does everyone seem unfair to us? Is it just differential treatment? Is the West just scared of China getting strong?
Okay, 2 big ideas there. Fairness and fear of strength. Let's take fairness first, or rather the feeling of unfairness. International relations at its core often relies on trust. Mutual trust.
And the perception is that this trust has been eroded.
That's what some analyses suggest. They point to examples where China's actions may be related to promises made at the UN or on human rights or its claims in the South China Sea seem inconsistent with its stated commitments or international norms. It creates a feeling of, well, saying one thing and doing another.
Like that friend analogy we saw. The one who always promises to pay you back next week, but next week there's always a new excuse.
Exactly. After a while, you might stop lending them money. Not because you hate them, maybe you still like them as a person, but you can't trust their word in that specific situation anymore. You fear being let down again.
So repeated perceived inconsistencies chip away at that trust capital.
That seems to be the argument. Now, about the second part, fear of strength. Is the West just afraid of China's rise?
That's the narrative you often hear.
And there's certainly an element of strategic competition that's undeniable, but the analysis suggests the fear isn't necessarily of China's success itself, like lifting people from poverty. It's more about the nature of that strength. Is it transparent? Does it follow established international rules?
So it's fear of untransparent, rule-bending strength.
That's the nuance, yeah. Concerns pop up around things like rapid military expansion without clear strategic limits, widespread tech surveillance that could affect global citizens, or exporting censorship models. It's the how and the why behind the strength that seems to cause anxiety.
Okay, contrast that. Like, the U.S. isn't generally afraid when, say, South Korea or Japan become economically or technologically strong, right?
Generally not, because they're seen as operating within a similar democratic framework, following established global rules, alliances. It's like playing chess. People don't usually mind if you get better at chess. They do mind if you suddenly declare your pawn can move like a queen halfway through the game.
Changing the rules to guarantee a win. Got it.
But again, it's not all conflict. We saw that Reuters data point, U.S. pharmaceutical CEOs still openly talk about collaborating with China on drug research. So there's still cooperation where interests align. It's complex.
Definitely complex. Okay, let's shift gears to identity. This one always sparks debate. Big number 4. Why don't Taiwanese people want to be considered Chinese?
Right, this is a really sensitive one. The key thing to understand from an international perspective is what the word China often signifies politically.
You mean it's often shorthand for the People's Republic of China, the PRC, and its government system?
Exactly. It's less about shared cultural heritage because Taiwanese people generally cherish Chinese language, history, and culture. They love it. The disconnect is political. It's about not wanting to be equated with or governed by an authoritarian, single-party system.
So it's a rejection of the political system, not the culture itself.
That's the core of it. It comes down to valuing self-determination, freedom of speech, the ability to criticize the government, to vote leaders out, things that are fundamental to their way of life but absent in the PRC system.
What about the argument that Taiwan's democracy looks chaotic? You know, the televised arguments in parliament, the strong political divisions.
Well, from the perspective of many established democracies, that chaos, the loud debates, the arguments, the ability for different parties to fiercely compete is actually seen as, well, healthy. It's a sign that different voices can be heard, that power is checked, that issues are being openly thrashed out. It's seen as a normal detox process.
Contrasted with a system where there's superficial stability because only one viewpoint is allowed.
Precisely. And there's a practical side, too. We heard this feedback about traveling. Someone from Taiwan saying, I'm from China, abroad, can apparently lead to all sorts of complicated political questions or assumptions.
Whereas saying, I'm from Taiwan is just simpler, more factually accurate for their situation.
Apparently so. It avoids the political baggage. And some argue this isn't about being brainwashed, as is sometimes claimed, but more like being educated by world reality, how the world actually perceives these terms.
Interesting. Okay, that links to the next beacon. Let's talk about interactions. Beacon 5. Why do Japanese people seem friendlier to Taiwanese visitors than to mainland Chinese visitors?
Yeah, this perception comes up a lot. Part of it seems historical and based on specific events, like Taiwan's huge donations and swift aid after Japan's 3/11 earthquake left a very strong positive impression. It created a lot of goodwill, reciprocity.
Diplomacy through generosity, like you said.
Yeah. But day to day, it also seems to come down to behavior again. Stereotypes, maybe, but persistent ones. Taiwanese tourists are often perceived by Japanese locals as being quieter, more polite, making more effort to follow local customs, respecting rules.
Versus the stereotype often applied to some groups of mainland tourists.
Right. The stereotype, fair or not, is often about being loud, traveling in large, rushed groups, focusing heavily on bulk buying luxury goods, and sometimes acting a bit entitled, like money buys everything. These are generalizations, of course, but stereotypes impact perception.
And those perceptions build up over time, influencing how people are treated.
Exactly. Individual actions really do shape the collective image, which takes us to Beacon 6, the awkwardness abroad.
Right. Why do Taiwanese sometimes seem hesitant to socialize or become friends with mainland Chinese when they meet overseas? Is it just hostility?
The feedback suggests it's usually not outright hostility. It's more often a fear of the conversation being politically hijacked.
Hijacked how?
Like, you start a friendly chat about maybe food or movies or travel, something neutral, and suddenly it pivots hard into, so are you Chinese? Or do you support reunification? Or challenging their identity?
So a casual chat turns into an interrogation or a political debate they didn't ask for.
Exactly. It puts them on the defensive immediately. It makes building a genuine connection really difficult if you feel like you have to constantly defend your identity or political stance.
So the advice is?
If you genuinely want to make friends, maybe start with those neutral topics. Connect as people first, shared interests, hobbies, experiences. Let the friendship build on personality, not nationality. Don't lead with the political identity check. Especially with Taiwanese people, it can really shut down communication.
Yeah, forcing identity questions up front seems like a barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, final beacon. Number 7. Is the whole world just smearing China? Is all the negative media coverage biased?
This feeling is understandable, especially if you're primarily consuming state-controlled media domestically. But from an international media perspective, it's framed differently. It's seen less as smearing and more as supervision or accountability. Meaning, major global powers, by definition, attract more scrutiny. China's actions, whether it's in the South China Sea, tech policy like with chips, or human rights issues like in Xinjiang, have huge global consequences. So international news outlets report on them extensively because they impact everyone. It's about scrutinizing power.
So the volume of coverage is high because the global impact is high.
That's the argument. And it's important to note, positive stories do get reported internationally. Things like space program achievements, advancements in electric vehicles, they exist.
Right.
But they might be filtered out or downplayed by domestic Chinese media. So if you're only getting that filtered view, it can absolutely look like the outside world is relentlessly negative. You're not seeing the full picture that's actually out there.
And trust pops up again here, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When there are accusations of non-transparency, maybe like delays or lack of access during the early WHO COVID investigation, that breeds skepticism globally. The underlying fear often isn't about a nation being strong. It's about a lack of openness, a lack of accountability, a fear that you can't speak freely about that strength.
But it's not universally negative, right? You mentioned the global South.
Crucial point. Global opinion is definitely not monolithic. Data from groups like the Asia Society shows that in many parts of the global South Africa, the Middle East, parts of Latin America, China's image is often quite positive.
Why the difference?
Concrete benefits, largely. Infrastructure projects, investment through initiatives like the Belt and Road. When the engagement is seen as bringing tangible development and investment without the political conditions sometimes attached to Western aid, the perception can be very different. It really depends on where you're standing.
That's a really important piece of context.
Okay,
so wrapping all these beacons up, the Pew data, the trust issues, the identity politics, the behavioral stuff, what's the main takeaway, the core message from this Beacon of Truth session?
I think the central thread running through most of this is that the international community's concerns, rightly or wrongly, seem focused more on specific behaviors, government policies, and a perceived lack of political transparency, rather than on inherent discrimination against Chinese people as a whole. The world tends to react to actions and stated policies.
So the hope is that understanding these perspectives helps, not necessarily to agree with them, but to see why they exist.
Exactly. Maybe use this understanding not just to defend, but to look inward too. To realize that how individuals behave, especially abroad, is maybe the most powerful form of diplomacy there is. Your actions can speak volumes, potentially louder than official statements.
Yeah. Our aim here, as always, is just to present the different facets, the objective facts and analyses we found, to help with critical thinking. We're not here to criticize any nation or people,
just laying out the information.
Well, thank you for joining us for this pretty candid sip and talk conversation.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. And hey, if you found this helpful, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
And also, quick plug for our friend Micky. Check out his YouTube channel, Micky to Life. He does fun stuff, memes, liquor tastings, and he's got some great European travels logs up lately. Really entertaining.
Definitely check Micky out. All right, that's all for this time.
We'll see you next time.